You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Call. I've got Brad Hunt here with me, and today's podcast is with Ryan Lampers, Brad Hunt, and Chiam Loyd, and myself. We exchanged Mark Livesey for Chiam, and while we're here in Bozeman, we sat down and we did a quick podcast with Chiam, who came to town. Now, Chiam filmed the hunt, and he edited the film that just dropped last Sunday. If you haven't seen it, you want to go check it out. It's a cool film. And Chiam's super talented.
Very.
We get to hang out with him. This was his first massive backcountry mountain hunt. And he did it with Ryan Lampers and Brad, and that's an intense first mountain, 10-day excursion.
Needless to say, the kid crushed it.
He's impressive, but he did go hungry for a few days. We mentioned it in the last podcast. He did starve a little. So, yeah, you want to check it out. Chiam talks about kind of his progression as a young hunter doing this, what went through his mind on the hunt, what he's learned. Mistakes made, lessons learned. So it's a very, it's a fun show. And then there's lots of Lord of the Ring references, which much to Ryan's chagrin and to warming my heart, So we talk about filming hunts a little bit, some of the philosophy there. It's a cool discussion. Hope you enjoy it. Don't forget, we have a big giveaway going. You have until Sunday night, this Sunday, to get in on it. We're selling the Some Men Can, Some Men Can't t-shirt over at Peaks Equipment. If you go there, you'll see the shirt, and there's a little backstory behind the shirt, and there's a big list of things you can win. All you got to do is buy the shirt, and you'll be entered to win. Yep. And the shirt helps us keep doing what we do. So we very much appreciate all the support you've given us. We've sold a lot of shirts so far. We're hoping to get a little more push, sell a few more before we get to this Sunday. Yep. And we are so grateful for all of that. And then Initial Ascent, we have a big giveaway going on there. Every $25 you spend in Initial Ascent gets you entered to win. If you're interested in that backpack system that we've been using for a while, just go to Initial Ascent and check it out. And when you use the code GRITTY, you're going to save and you're going to be entered to win. And that's a big prize package too. And you can find out more about that going to their page. So it's a cool deal we got going on. And then we do have some more films we're going to drop, probably. Yeah. If we can squeeze some out, more bear. We definitely have one this Sunday. Yep. So tune in Sunday. And then after that,
it's up in the air because
there is one more film we're working on, and I think we'll get that one out too. So we'll have 3 full, good long bear episodes, because the last one was like 30-something minutes. So
plus the final on locals as well.
Yeah. We do have 2 30-minute, at least, minute films of a fall bear hunt, which is a very cool hunt. You got to be a member, a supporter over at our Gritty Stealthy community. You just go to gritty.locals.com, and for $7, you can binge all the exclusive content. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting our show, and stay gritty. All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Call. On today's show, we have got Ryan Lampers, a.k.a. Stealthy Hunter. We've got Chiam Loyd, a.k.a. Cameraman Extraordinaire, Backcountry Fool.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And then we got Brad Hunt over there, Idaho boy, and we are going to talk a little bit. So we just published on Sunday the bear hunt that I was not on. It was a real flex because you guys had like a giant chainsaw and other things. It was a real bold move with the llamas. I had a few people comment on the video saying, that was intense. You guys have llamas now. You think you can bring full-blown chainsaws with you?
We knew it was going to be hell going in there.
Yeah. We're on these bear hunts. We're generally the first guys on the trails.
Yeah.
It seems like we've noticed that there's like a trend going. So, we make sure to pack. Usually the silky saw.
We used a hand saw last
We brought
time.
the silky saw. We learned from that, and on this one we ended up bringing a
You had a
big
couple
boy steel.
giant
There were some big
trees.
logs, yeah. I mean, you had some that were...
We still had to work our way around. We were burning through fuel like crazy.
Yeah, we went through two cans of 1 gallon fuel
Yeah.
on that trip.
So on this hunt, you guys had in. I wasn't there, and I want to make that clear because on the film,
Man, that trip
by the
was
way,
quiet. Minus the chainsaws. It was kind of a quiet trip. Not a lot of talking.
It was a little boring. It looked like to me, but
sorry, I'm not as entertaining, people.
So what's funny is we put the film out on Sunday, and so far people have really thanked me for the really good video edit, and Brad.
And
for
if they
all
don't
the
thank
fancy
him,
film
they
work.
thank me, and I'm like, no.
Anyway, folks, Chiam Loyd did, I'd say, the heavy lifting, almost most of the film work and the edit, and that teaser I can't take any credit for at all. It's beautiful work.
Was a pretty badass teaser.
Yes,
that was cool.
I might need to toss some stuff your way, Chiam, and have you help out with the teasers. I'm a one-trick pony. It's going to be like boom, 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 boom in your face and then over, and it's usually it's there to get you excited, give you a few scenes from the hunt, and then we're moving on. But your teaser really laid out a nice feel for what that hunt was.
Had some
all in how long was it? A minute?
I don't know, minute and 20 seconds, minute 30, something like that.
Had
well
some
done.
cool special effects.
I don't do
fancy
those.
stuff.
I don't really do special fancy stuff. So yeah, but that was probably your first serious backcountry hunt.
Yeah.
And you did it with just some amateurs. So so it wasn't. No, you got thrown into the fire. It was sink or swim. So what I want to do on this podcast, I want to get your perspective, Chiam, on what it was like. And now's your chance to defend yourself on the food prep because we threw you under the bus. I didn't. I want you to know.
It was all Mark.
I had your back the whole time.
Yeah.
And so did Mark as he blamed Lampers for the food fiasco. But let's hear it from your perspective.
Yeah. So, weird turn of events. Lampers calls me up one day and he's like, "Hey, would you be down to come film a hunt, do some, some stuff for me, some products, et cetera, et cetera."
And how do you know Ryan? Mutual friend,
yeah. So just hanging out up at the Peaks office, and he was in and out of there, and I was like, "Who's this weird hippie dude that comes in and out of the Peaks office?" Yeah.
And I was like, "Who's this geek behind the computer screen all day?
Who's this guy drinking
with all these Taco Bell bags
Who's this
everywhere?
guy drinking a Dr. Pepper?"
That's pretty accurate. So I was preparing well for the trip. I didn't know it was coming, and he calls me and asks if I want to come film, and I didn't know what I was getting into, and so I'm borrowing gear from different people, and I end up showing up with a bunch of XL, and I'm definitely a schmedium, and so I have all of these.
Where did that come from?
Bass Ham, yeah. And so I have all this stuff that I just look like the Michelin Man the whole film. So if you see me in the background, I think Brad's talking about
you
a
got
fire.
some XL
you see me
gear.
back there, and I just look like the Michelin Man. But yeah, so I had really experienced just in some backpacking. I like fly fishing, so I was getting out doing that. I moved to Bozeman from Texas, and there's no mountains in Texas. And so I wasn't really prepared on my fly fishing trips. I'd take one meal, mountain house, whatever, per day. Yeah, and you're catching fish, supplementing with that. But I get there, and I think that the expert Ryan Lampers would have me covered, but it turns out he eats like a bird. So I was starving and I was dying. And then I get all of this crap for it. It's a year. It's been a year. And I'm still getting stuff from Livesey and Lampers like it was my fault in my XL Michelin suit.
Always and forever, it's going to come your way, Chiam, on that one.
Yeah. And so
Chiam thought this was a fly fishing trip, apparently, where one meal a day was going to cut it.
Sorry, Chiam, I have to vouch for Ryan. I saw that giant box of food in the back of his truck. So
Chiam had access to food, but what actually went in his pack was very little. Very little.
Yeah.
I don't know why exactly.
It's rough when you underpack.
I figured, man, this guy really eats light.
And I don't.
He's a real medium.
Little did I know. Now I know that's definitely not the case.
Yeah, no, I eat a lot. And thankfully, these guys shared a little bit of their snacks, which there is a myth that Lampers doesn't share. But if you give him the right puppy dog eyes, he'll throw you some snacks. He will. So,
I've never experienced that.
Yeah, you just got to be a little nicer.
Yeah.
you know.
He wants something from you.
Oh,
He's like, make me look good in this film.
yeah. Oh, but yeah, so it was definitely an experience. I'd hiked around, doing 3 or 4 day backpacking trips, but nothing like packing a bear out of a canyon.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, we know what it's like. We know what the hunts consist of, and we've been on hunts with a handful of people. The reality is, and no offense, because you are quote unquote the cameraman. Because typically cameramans are the weak link of every hunt we go on, and you have to bring them because they're the guys that know how to run the cameras. This is why I taught myself how to run cameras, but they're actually not quite up to the job of actually doing the hunts,
Yeah.
And so you went on this trip, and I gotta admit, I would have guessed and expected you to quit, quit. Like, give up, say you can't do it. This is too much. Why are you guys do this? Why am I out here? Have an existential crisis, about purpose of life and why you're there, and go home early, that kind of thing. Did that ever cross your mind?
No.
Internally, it didn't happen.
Look, I drove both of us there, so he had no options. He had no way to escape. He had to stay.
Yeah. No, there was a few points where I was like, man, this is tough. This is physically challenging. And growing up, my dad was a basketball coach, and I was constantly in the gym in great condition. And then Taco Bell in college happened, and editing long hours. So my physique isn't quite what it was. But
Editing will crush you.
Oh, it does. And it, especially for whatever reason, my creativity really happens 2, 3 a.m. at night, and it's a very unhealthy thing, but I'm just not as productive during the day. And I've tried getting up early and doing that. I'm just not as creative.
I had that same discussion the other day. We were talking about creativity and everything, and somebody was saying, at 5 o'clock, I'm done. That just is my hard stop. And I'm thinking, I can't do it.
It goes Dan Staten.
Dan Staten, right. For me, it's same thing. It's kind of like, when the moment hits and I'm flowing, I need to stay in that flow state, and I might just go from 6 a.m. I'll be on it, and I might go to 6 a.m. the next day and just not stop. And then, because once I get derailed or I'm out of it, and it's not even work though either, because in those moments I'm not pushing myself to work I'm trying to quit. I don't even want to peel myself away to eat or do anything because I'm just in it.
Yeah.
And then once I can't even relax anyway because I know the job needs to be done. I'm better now, but I'd stress about the fact that there's a deadline, and I want to make sure I got the product that I wanted created for that deadline, and I want to shortchange it. So I just ended up burning the candle, but I got more balance now, and I'm not as worried. I know, like, even if it's Thursday, Friday, and I'm putting a movie out on Sunday, I kind of know now that I don't need to worry that I'm 50% done, because that last 50% can go pretty fast in a day or two. Or I'll show Brad, and I might not have a movie at all by Thursday because I've done so much of the other work, some graphics. But once I throw it together, it'll go together in a day and a half or something.
Right.
But I kind of get it now. But for a long time, it's so 2 a.m., 3 a.m., that's bad.
It's horrible for you.
Yeah.
And then you get out of the zone. For me, I get out of the zone.
But you're young.
Yeah. Well,
I'm old.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And you don't eat Taco Bell when you're done. I reward myself at the end with Taco Bell because it's the only thing open at 4 a.m. So you drive down and you get a chalupa,
Yeah, I don't know.
7-layer burrito.
Exactly. Yeah.
See, if you just have Ryan freeze dry you a bunch, then you don't have to go anywhere.
Tom, the last time I had Taco Bell was in 1997.
They had Taco Bells back then?
They did, and it was 59 cents for a taco.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. I think that it's cheap now, but like my mom tells me the same thing. It was so cheap during college.
It was a 59-cent menu.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now it's like the dollar cravings, and it's not actually $1. So that sucks.
It's like the dollar.
I don't go there
it's like the dollar store, and everything's $3 now because of Biden inflation.
Yeah. But yeah, so that editing's tough on the body if you're not
you weren't
uber careful.
The best shape. But
no, not going in at all.
So you didn't quit though?
No. it never really crossed my mind to quit, and not because I'm like some, crazy athlete or anything, but it's just, I don't know. I think some people, I've heard you talk about it before. There's just a little flame in you that says, I'm not going to quit. It may be a day after Lampers gets to camp, but I'm going to get to camp and I'm going to do it with the weight that I have. Cause I remember a specific moment where Brad's like, oh, do you want me to take the meat up the hill? And I knew like a signal in my brain was like, this is a test. Like, and I wanted to say something rude because it was a test. And I was like, no, I got it. And I wish that I would have said yes at some points up that hill, but
if someone asked me that today or Ryan, we say yes, take the meat. Like there's not a lot of pride, and we know we can do it, but
yeah. Well, for me, it was definitely. I mean,
you'd definitely be judged right now at that stage. You'd be judged.
Yeah. Oh, and I knew that going in. Like when we were crossing that creek, I knew that I had a big challenge ahead of me, and just trying to keep up with those guys almost.
Because some men can and some men can't.
That's true.
I want to ask you this, Chiam, like, because you've rafted and stuff, but I think.
Yeah. Oh,
and what were you thinking as we crossed you and I in that raft?
Well, there is a clip on my Instagram where my eyes kind of say it all.
Right.
I have no idea where I didn't know you from Adam really before that trip. Yep. And I'm assuming
Life
you can paddle a raft. And and I've got my I was more worried about my camera because I had, for whatever stupid reason, I had my camera to film you crossing. And I was like, this is dumb. Why would I not just put it away?
I know.
But yes, you get the shot, but you also have the camera out.
Exactly.
Well, that's the thing. No guts, no glory, Chiam.
Yeah.
And you have a sick shot of some of that because you rolled the dice. I got to admit, the last couple of times I put it away.
Yeah.
It's
always a tough call with camera gear. But we made it across, and I found out that Brad can indeed paddle a kayak, even with two people on it.
He can do
better
it.
than Brian.
Not even close to my skill level.
Yeah, I've heard that Brian.
Dude, I got skills, my friend. I don't know what anybody's talking about. It may not look pretty.
Let's just say Brian's finesse is not there.
By the way, it's been 4 or 5 years since we started. The Brian from 4 years ago is not the same Brian today. Okay,
this is true. 4 years ago, it was like just use your muscles and push that oar into the water. Doesn't matter how much splashing goes on or where the boat spins. It's gonna get there.
Since then, I have a little more technique,
finesse,
a little more finesse.
Yeah,
but it does not look like Ryan's. But I can't put the boat where I want. I can't angle it, and I've learned a lot. I mean, I've learned a lot just watching Ryan run the boat, period. Just looking at it going, oh, that's how you do that. Oh, that's how that's done. And it's dramatically. Still, there are things he does, and I'm like, I'm not going to do it that way. I don't think I can. If I wanted to, that's pretty tricky. No, I'm just going to power through this.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of those things that if you're not kayaking, you don't get good at it. So it does take years, especially if you're going during spring bear and like a few crossings a year.
It was the long floats that got me better.
Yeah.
And some of the like 10 or 12 ferry trips back and forth.
Yeah.
That helped.
Yeah. Repetition.
Because I went across with Pedro a bunch and I'm like, wow, I'm much more skilled on a raft nowadays than I remember when we were crossing some of those rivers back when. I got caught on some rocks. I almost went under a couple times. It was ugly, popping, on the edge of popping rafts. Then I go with later and I watch like Pedro on a boat and I'm like laughing at him and I'm thinking, man, I don't think I ever sucked that bad, but I did have my days. I got mocked. I got my share of mockery. I still do.
Just like you say, a little bit of shaming can really help.
It really does. I'll never paddle like Lampers, but I think you got to spend a lot of years on the water to do that. But I am probably the second best with the boat in the group. What would you say, Ryan?
How big is our group? How many guys are we talking? Like, how many people have we?
Everybody we've gone with. Who's better than me?
I don't know. Probably. It might be.
I'm better than Brad.
I don't think I've seen Brad much. honestly. I guess I was there that day that you crossed over.
Yeah, all I can tell you is that his face is really serious, so it kind of looks like he knows what he's doing. I had no idea where we were going, but he looks like he knows what he's doing.
We hit the spot money.
So
where we needed to go.
But this is not your first rafting experience though, because you have played around with that.
Yeah,
quite a bit.
Yeah, I kayaked a lot as soon as I could. Down south, pretty much the only place you can go is Arkansas for anything remotely cool. And I would hit like spring flood season with my buddies with those Walmart open face lifetime kayaks. And
isn't that water moccasin season?
Yeah, but usually in flood season, it's just going so fast you don't see any snakes because they're just swept away.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't like to kayak in the Texas Caddo Lake area because it's just constant. You see snakes and alligators and mosquitoes and spiders in the trees. It's disgusting. There's a reason I moved to Bozeman. But yeah, so I'd done it a little bit, and I've wrapped a few plastic kayaks around some logs after some storms, and gotten kind of used to it on the Walmart level, which I think makes you pretty good once you get in an alpaca raft, and those things they're so sensitive.
They're super responsive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So overall, hindsight, looking back, for a couple questions I have for you. One is lessons learned that you carried on to some of the future hunts, because you've done more. So some of the lessons learned, and then two, what do you want to see? What this sort of adventure? What was your overall impression the first time you went? Cool, like what you expected, more than you expected. What was it overall and for you?
Yeah. So lessons that I took away, which again I've kind of heard you guys talk about after the fact. I didn't consume a lot of hunting podcasts or anything before, but then after, you get a little taste and you start consuming a little more. But that you can do something at the end of a hard trip like that. So, I mean, when you're not with somebody like Lampers and Brad constantly trailing behind, you start to feel really good when you go with normal people. Because like the next few hunts, I was with, we'll say, just normal people. And I was like, yeah, this is easy, And as far as like expectations, like I said, I've backpacked a lot, so I just love being out, but I've learned that I'm a very goal-oriented person. So if I don't have a goal, if I don't have a lake that I want to fish at the end of this trail, or a creek along the trail, like a certain fish that I want to check off the list, whatever, I don't like to do it. I don't like to push myself that hard. I'll turn around and go home. Like, I don't like to just hike trails. Like, you see trail runners they look so happy. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I need a goal. And I think that this was, it's a very visual representation of a goal that you set out to do. You accomplish it. You work hard for that goal, and you work hard after you achieve the goal. And it was like a really full circle experience, which got me interested in doing more hunting on my own. It's even more motivating than going out and trying to catch golden trout at some high mountain lake. It's way more motivating because you get like a 6-inch fish on a pan versus hauling out a bear. Even though it wasn't mine, I was like, this is awesome. This is great. I love this experience.
What did you think of subsequent hunts? So you went with us on a rugged late season mule deer hunt, where we got our butts kicked. And people haven't seen any footage from this trip because it was like 16 days of nothing.
Yeah.
But on that trip, you got a taste of the other side of just grind. And I know Ryan hiked your ass off. So were you dreading going on that hunt, having the taste from the prior, and was it better or worse than you expected?
Well, in between there, me and Lampers had done some hunts. There's you dropped that teaser with me, him, and Tana, and all of those shots you see Lampers and Tana on a llama, but you don't see all the other llamas and me dragging behind. And then
he was wrestling all three of the other ones back there. All kinds of fun.
But so we had done a few hunts outside of that spring bear and this late season hunt. So I was a little bit prepared. Of course, I loved the pace when Tana was there. That was great because it slowed down a little bit for me. But yeah, I wish she'd come on every trip because I'd be able to
smell the roses, enjoy your time.
What's funny about that trip, Tana's pretty reserved with most people.
Yes.
For whatever reason, like when her and Chiam get together, she is goofier than normal. Like these two are joking and pranking each other the entire trip. I mean, she just has a blast.
That's cool.
She's
that
at the
was
top of her
super
game.
fun. Yeah, I remember we were going up this ungodly steep hill, and it was hard for me. And Tana's doing this hill, and I was just super impressed that she made it up. But I remember like getting kind of 3/4 of the way, and she's starting to drag a little bit, and we just start doing English accents, and I can't even imagine what's going through Lamper's head back there. He's probably like, oh my gosh, I kept looking to make sure he was there because I thought he might just leave us. But we were just having a great time, and we got up there, and we both
she didn't talk to very many people.
Yeah.
She's a quiet one.
She bullies me, but we get along.
She bullies me too.
Yeah, she is a bully. She gets that from her dad.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, so going into that late season hunt, I knew, what I was signing on for. When Lamper says that something is going to be tough, I start, getting a little worried, if I'm, going to be able to do it. But, I think we both knew that even though we were hiking to the top of peaks just to see what was on the other side, because that's what Lampers loves to do, is just hike.
Well, and the closer you get toward the end of a hunt and there's no animals dead, the more frantic the activity becomes.
Yes.
Oh, and this was a classic case. This one, the last day we got up early and we did it
all day.
We did it that day.
But it's. I'm figuring out Lampers a little bit each trip we go on. I knew when we woke up that morning that he knew there was no deer. We were going to see no deer.
Yes.
We both knew it. There was no migration. Yep. Nothing was going to happen.
Lacing up your running shoes, not your hiking shoes.
Yeah, but we
you almost made something glorious happen.
That's true.
You almost.
Oh, we were so close. Like it would have made the trip.
It would have been. There would have been a story to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring that up. I feel like that's still a sensitive spot. But yeah, we hiked our butts off, and I think we both knew we weren't going to see deer, but it was just like the principle of giving it 100%.
Everything you got until the last hour
on the last day. Yeah,
last minute.
So we
saw lots of young bucks. Like we saw lots of younger, immature.
You could
saw some elk, saw stuff, saw some great country.
Yeah.
But we never did lay eyes. I mean, it didn't matter. It seemed like how many miles we put on. We just weren't able to lay eyes on mature
There was
bucks.
one that I contemplated for a second, but, you're with Lampers, so you got to pretend like you don't want to shoot everything that you see and pretend to be patient. At that point, I'd never shot a mule deer. We went with Paley. Was that before or after that trip?
Paley's was after
that trip, and I shot my first mule deer.
Yep.
So I was itching, because I'd never shot anything. But it's amazing, like just with anything in life, who you surround yourself with teaches you, and affects who you are. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, it's a buck, and a year ago, before I was hanging out with this crew, I would have just shot it. But now I see that and I'm like, is that what I want my first experience to be like?
Right.
Is it, mature enough? And just kind of looking at it and, going off of, I don't know, I worked so hard, I didn't want to take that buck.
I hear you.
I felt like I had worked hard enough to take something else, and my first experience is not going to be like that.
If it doesn't speak to you, if it doesn't make you super excited, as you're looking at it, then it's not right.
Yeah, and that's what, instead of just letting that initial, I want to shoot it and get excited about it, just because your adrenaline's going, you see something with fur and antlers.
Something
and it
legal or finally.
It was miles above everything else we'd seen, and so it probably looked bigger in my head then, but it just didn't say, shoot me.
Yeah.
And so, it was, I don't know, it was a good day because we did do everything physically possible. It was like, there was points where I felt like Lampers hates this, but I love Lord of the Rings, and I was humming the Lord.
I should have known Lord of the Rings would have made it in this podcast.
There's just snow caps. We're hiking, and I'm just like, dude, this is like Lord of the Rings. This is awesome. And he's just shut up.
I haven't seen them all either, Ryan. I haven't seen them all either.
I'm with you, Chiam. I totally feel it.
Yeah. And he hates on it, but we were living Lord of the Rings there, like hiking over the snow-capped mountains for no reason.
What sort of person hasn't watched them all multiple times? Like, what does that say about a human being?
It's lack of intelligence, lack of culture.
Look, totally.
He has talked about this movie so much.
Lack of adventure.
When it came to him, myself, and
the
Paley going on a
cinematography.
hunt,
exactly.
You know how exciting it was? We sat down and we finally agreed to watch it. So he sets it up, and we're there on our November
with the projector?
Hunt. No projector on this one, not yet. And we start watching it. I mean, he was snoring within like 20 minutes. He rattled off every line for about 20 minutes, and then he fell asleep. And then Paley fell asleep, and then I fell asleep.
Oh, nice.
It was that boring. So I'm not impressed.
Yeah, true. He'll watch Yellowstone like it's,
that's good stuff there. Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I got through one season. I'm like, I'm out. It's kind of
You're like 1883. I'm like, why is there only one? Why is there only one?
What's even better is 1923.
1923,
that one
exactly.
Is probably better than Yellowstone.
Yep. I can agree.
These guys.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway.
But let's go back to, there's a lot of guys that are in your shoes being fresh, new to this kind of thing. They're getting ready to go out and do this stuff. So, hey, what are your words of wisdom, words of advice to new guys that are thinking of their first? There's a ton of guys out there. Their first bear hunt is coming up this spring. First Western mule deer elk hunt ever. What do you say to those guys?
I think put yourself out there. Give yourself a lot more time than you need to. That's something that I really enjoyed about hunting with these guys is we spent the time. We looked over a lot of bears. We did shoot pretty quick on this trip, but I think that was, it wasn't uncalled for. We were seeing a lot of bears. We saw the bear that we wanted. We shot it, but we stayed a long time after that. And that's my first real experience. I mean, in East Texas, you sit in a stand and you're done, And so this is a completely different experience. And I think your odds of being happy with the results of your hunt directly correlate with the time that you spend out there and just the general trip too. It just got better and better as we stayed out there longer. So carve yourself out more days than just 2 or 3 days, like a weekend.
We say that all the time.
Yeah. And
more days.
And just prepare to earn whatever you harvest.
What do you say to the guys that this came up at the bear camp that we just did at the Peaks HQ the other day, and this was a genuine concern. There's some hardcore guys, but some of them have been hunting their whole lives, but hunting solo. Okay. And then staying out for let's say they carved out 10 days. The amount of guys who carve out 10 days and go home after 5 is sad.
Yeah.
It's a travesty. But that's common. That's really, really common. So how does a guy not quit?
Like I said, I think it's like setting yourself a goal, and it's a mentality that you have to go in and say that even if everything goes wrong, if I'm not seeing animals, I'm going to give this spot that I've invested in enough time to shine or fail. And you've just got to do it. Don't be a quitter. Like it's pretty simple when you really boil it down.
Yeah.
And everybody has that moment. Like I've had trips where I turn around because I'm just bored or don't want to do it. But I think it really does come down to just sticking it out. Like that late season hunt, we knew we weren't going to find deer, but you don't feel good unless you leave there knowing that you did everything that you possibly could.
And so often some freaking miracle happens on the last hour of the last day, and which almost happened. And so when that sort of thing happens, you're like, it's happened enough that even though it seems all odds are stacked against us on these hunts, we just ride it out anyway.
Yeah.
Because more often than not, something wild will happen and you will be super successful. But most guys never figure that out because they always quit too soon.
So, classic. We spent a lot of time in one area. Like we just thought the migration is going to happen. Everything felt perfect. For whatever reason, it wasn't. But come towards the end, Chiam and I, we boogied to a completely different spot, crossed a creek, bombed up this side. And we put ourselves in an area where I feel like, man, we had a great chance of laying eyes on a good buck. like we went above and beyond what I think a lot of people would do at that point. We'd already been there 8 days or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we gave everything we had. We got to this great glassing area, great position. And man, we had a nice kill box. We had all the things. We found lots of does, young bucks, all the things, but just no mature bucks. Next day, though, we kind of checked that box off. Next day, we bombed down. Got up very early the following day. This was our last day, and we gave it absolutely everything we had. And we put ourselves in positions where guys definitely weren't. Yeah. And in the end, yeah, we could have been extremely successful with that wolf. I mean,
yeah,
just say it.
It was right there.
There was a wolf, like a gimme. It walked right in, and we had a little malfunction. But yeah, it could have happened. Could have ended with success. Yeah. Only that little miracle could have happened only because we did everything we had that day.
Often is what happens. Yeah.
Usually you're rewarded. And I've probably told you that many times. Like, usually you put this kind of effort in, you're rewarded. That trip, it didn't happen. But it is rare that you give that kind of effort and it doesn't happen.
That I have a unique opportunity as a filmmaker in this, putting myself in this space and hunting with a lot of different really good hunters. Yeah. One thing that's consistent among all of those hunters is the time and the patience. Anybody that was successful, I mean, it's really easy for me. I've got like front row seat to learn from the best.
Right. Me too, over the years.
Yeah, bouncing around, and it's a great way to learn. And I'm taking mental notes on every trip, and every trip that was successful, whether that be with harvesting what you wanted or went in for or not, you know, you did find success in different ways. But there were trips that we went on and didn't kill a thing, and it was, in my mind, a great trip. Like that late season trip, I remember, you know, coming back, and I was like, that was awesome. Because he was like, what did you think? You know, and I'm sure he expected me to say, oh, it sucked because there was no Taco Bell. Well, actually, it was. He did freeze dry me Taco Bell, so that's why it was awesome. Yeah. But just, I think that you got to find joy in the experience. First of all, you'll never enjoy hunting whatsoever. But that patience it's key in every successful hunt that I've been on with a bunch of different people. And it's really cool to see that at work in different ways, seeing different styles, but everything kind of comes to that patience aspect.
Years ago, I did a podcast with Levi Morgan, and we were talking about his come up, you know, with archery. And he talked about how he really hadn't won hardly anything, and he's getting ready to quit because, you know, he'd been putting so much time and energy and money into shooting archery championships, you know, doing the archery league and the tours. And he'd just done it for a long, long time. And he had talked to his wife, and they had decided he was going to quit, you know. And, you know, he was like this close to quitting, just kind of doing his blue collar, I don't remember what his job was prior. But he said, you know, that's where he was. But he's like, I'm just going to stick it out another few tournaments and do a little bit more and stuff. And something clicked, and then he won, and then he won after that, and then he won, and then he became the Michael Jordan of archery tournaments. And he's like, Brian, how many people were like me that quit just a touch too soon? He's like, I kind of haunts him a little bit, the idea that he almost didn't become what he is today because he almost quit. And he said, I firmly believe that most people quit whatever their passion, whatever their dream, whatever their thing is, just before they could have become everything they had hoped to become.
Well, I just saw a line graph actually yesterday that has the line graph for those watching. It makes an N, an upside down U. They basically hit their high point and then they crashed. And everybody's like, at that moment that you're dipping, if you take that and you turn that up, guess what your success does? It goes up, it plateaus, it may dive down, but then you
goes back up.
You
again.
take off.
Yeah.
And
I really feel like that is so that haunts me too. Like, I think about it now all the time, and I tell myself in those moments, most people, I don't want to be most people. I don't want to be most men. I want to separate myself. I want to overcome. So when I'm in that position, I one of the things I think about is, you know, am I quitting just before I'm about to win?
Yeah.
And
That's kind of crazy, because before that hunt, like career wise, that's where I was it's always the darkest right before the light kind of deal. And I had moved up to Bozeman to film for an outdoor app, and the app never launched, and I was kind of just on the curb, and I was stocking shelves in the middle of the night at Albertsons in Belgrade, and just making it happen, because I there was a moment when I could go back to what's comfortable, film weddings in Texas, which was, I was making money and it was fine, and that's where my family is, and I don't know anyone up here. And at this point, I knew that I wanted to do something outdoors. I didn't want to go California, Hollywood, film industry. I wanted to do something outdoor, and I love hunting in the outdoors. And I could turn tail and quit and go home, back to Texas, back to family, or I could stick it out and try to make something happen here. And during that time when it was like kind of the darkest, and I hated my life because I was stocking cans at night with high schoolers, what was the point of this college degree? They didn't teach me anything about putting cans on a shelf. And anyways, that's, that darkest point was when I got that call to come film. And that was, I just remember thinking like, God, it would be so easy just to quit and go home, but I didn't. And now somehow, some way, everything clicked and it just worked. And that's been amazing to see, because it boosted me into this industry, and it's crazy.
What's frustrating now
he's extremely sought after.
Yeah,
and
now,
we barely get
now we're annoyed
because
we can't get him to work on our stuff or come hunt with us anymore.
Everybody has now
it's true.
Seen his talents.
You are super young and incredibly talented. People who are watching this last film, they think I did it, or Brad filmed it and stuff. And it took me years and years and years and years to do what I feel like you just kind of naturally have been able to do. And it's impressive. I did want to ask you a little bit about that. What is your kind of philosophy when you take a camera out into the mountains and you're going to film a hunt? Like, what is sort of your approach? What is working? Or maybe it's not, because you are like me, you're capturing it and then you're editing it, which I think often makes the best films, because I'm filming it in the mountains with the plan of editing it at home. Like, I'm creating the story as I go. When we've hired and I had leveraged other cameramen in the past, they'd go out and they would film, and I just get the footage. Well, the film wasn't filmed they weren't filming with an idea or an objective, or they weren't walking someone through the experience with them while they filmed it. They just filmed stuff.
Yeah.
And then you get done and you're like, man, I got to write a story, do the voiceover. I got to create something out of this. This is tough. Once I started filming and then also editing all my own stuff end to end, I feel like that's a much more powerful end product.
Yeah.
And so you went on this hunt and you filmed it and came back and you put this thing together and you got it out. What is, when you walk out there, like, how are you doing it? Is your magic there, or is it, well, I'll say this, I think it's in the edit. Like, I think the number of guys that can go out and capture what you captured, there's a long list.
Yeah. Anybody can hold a camera.
A lot of guys. I wouldn't say that. I mean, there's some guys that are really good at,
I can't.
There's a lot of guys that are way better cameramen than me.
Yeah.
Right? But they're not better producers and editors than me.
Yeah.
And so they're 10 times better, more talented, better time lapses, better slow-mo reels, better motion shots, better angles, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they don't connect when they're in an edit, in a produced film. And so I'd say right there, that makes you special, because I remember hearing from Ryan and then seeing your work and seeing some film, and I'm like, well, it's good. But my question was, but can he make a film?
Yeah.
Can he tell a hunt story?
Yeah.
Because I've noticed that list, I think that list is pretty short for guys who do it in a way that people really get or are really drawn to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good content, but then there's kind of that little step above.
Yeah.
And you're in that tier, and I want to know kind of how you got there.
Well,
what you
thanks.
think?
First of all, something's wrong because you guys are being nice today. But I think it's interesting if anyone wants to follow my body of work from that point. It's evolved a little bit because you go from, from my perspective, I'm not the backcountry hunter. I grew up, a little bit of whitetail in East Texas, and my dad was a basketball coach. We didn't do a lot of hunting. And I just sort of found this passion in the outdoors. And so for me, I want to capture everything because I'm soaking it in. And I think, I've learned a lot from our back and forth on, editing and different things. And we've got our differences creatively, but also you're a little restricted because you are the voice of the film, and thank God that I don't have to do that a lot. I just make lampers talk,
right.
But I think that it is hard to bridge that gap between being able to just film stuff and make it look cool in a hype reel or whatever, which is what so many people do. And social media is getting us tuned to just doing that. Oh, that's a cool 10-second little story.
Right. I see a lot of that.
Yeah.
And then the movie lets down.
Right. Yeah. And I think that one was a little difficult because I didn't go in with the intention of making a full film.
There was no clear understanding of how this was going to roll out. You had Hunter McWaters there. Yeah. You're there and Brad's there. There was 3 chiefs. And there was no Indians. Who's filming this thing?
And I at that point, I was like, man, Brad's supposed to be filming this. I don't even want to put the camera up if he's filming because I don't want him to be mad at me for stepping on his toes.
Took what you got though and turned it into a clear story.
Well, I think that just comes from watching movies like Lord of the Rings.
Man. Twice.
Understanding story arc and story structure.
Same here. I think that's it. That's it. We are students of the game.
Yeah, and I think it does really come down to knowing stories and how to make your film into a story versus just something that happened that you captured on film. And I think we sort of have a similar style in editing in that we don't like a lot of music and just stuff that distracts from the real. The grittiness of it, you know.
You could even put that aside and say, really, where we have an instinct for authenticity.
Yes,
I think that's what it is.
There you go.
It's not contrived or over filmed or.
Yes, and that's. I'm glad you said that because I got really sick of. I love telling stories, but I got really sick of working on sets during film school. And it's just everything is Hollywood's basically how do you lie the best? How do you make something?
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. How do you lie about something? How do you fool people into thinking that this is real? And there was a moment in film school, just nerd stuff. I'm sorry, Lampers, that you have to hear this. But there was a movement in cinema and in history, and it was called cinema verite, which is just like true cinema. And it was a movement where people just went out and rolled a camera on everyday life and then molded it together into some kind of story. It could be someone wakes up and, has a bagel, and then they pick it up on someone else who's fighting with their wife, and then they pick it up on someone else. And they made a story out of real things that were really happening that people weren't aware that they were filming.
Yes.
And that's a movement called cinema verite. And at that moment, it clicked with me, like, that's what I want to do, is like that kind of like Nat Geo style, like I'm capturing something that's real and then I'm making a story out of that. And I think that that's where I knew that I wanted to be, and I didn't know how to do it, but like this space is that. Yeah. And, it should be that.
Because I agree, because a normal film, like a lot of film out there, there's shot lists and there's a plan.
Yeah.
There's a story that they plan to tell before the hunt happens. They're kind of molding a hunt into a story. And to me, we're documentary filmmakers is what we are. It's totally different.
We have an idea when we go out to this is some of the stuff we want to get, but we don't have a shot list.
You're documenting in the moment,
right?
What is happening? You're trying to capture as many pieces of it with the camera that you can, and through verbal and communication. What is happening now in the moment?
Yeah.
So that later you can piece it together, something that is a documentary experience of what happened.
Yeah.
That's a lot different than a commercial, or even, especially if you're going to promote a product or whatever, and people, or if you're making a movie, like.
Yeah.
With a script and people are reading and all of that. Like, what bothers me is when I watch a hunt film where the camera is, you got 3 shots of the same moment, right?
Yeah.
From 3 different, very hard to capture angles. That means you either set up 3 separate cameras for that, or you did that same thing 3 times.
Yeah.
With the same camera, set up it, and I'm like, when I see it, it's pretty, but it feels totally contrived.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even notice it.
Yeah.
But on a hunt,
Yeah.
we're too practical. We're too real. We're too connected to reality.
Yeah.
And we're like, what the hell are you doing? Just show me a hunt.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel that way?
Yeah. No, 100%. And like I said, that's where I've wanted to go in my filmmaking career, is telling real stories the way that they really happen. Even when stuff doesn't look great, you know, I think that that's part of the story, you know, and your channel does a really good job of that, you know, like there's no kill films, no, you know, but that doesn't define the success or the story. You're still telling a story without, you know, having something, you know, because if you do know your story arc, you know, you can succeed. Like your story arc can finish without actually doing what you set out to accomplish.
High climax or something.
Yeah.
Well, just from my perspective too, because obviously you two are way, I mean, I'm older than you, Chiam, but I started running a camera way later, like way later. You know, this is my 2019, I think was the first year I started. And that's when I first touched the camera. Yeah. But so I like when we go on these hunts, just like that hunt, I learn a lot from you. Obviously I learned from Brian, and I've seen the transition over the last couple of years, especially of like how to tell the story. Because that's what I always struggled with was the I would say in-field production.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure. You know, I just been with you a few times, but as the years have progressed and now that we're working hand in hand next to each other, we see everything. It's like a paradigm shift for me, because then I'm like, every hunt now I'm like, I need to get from point A to point B. I need to figure out how to engage the audience with that so they feel like they are at point A right now and they need to get to point B.
Yeah. I don't have the training, the formal schooling or anything like that. I don't, and I haven't figured out how to do a lot of the really cool stuff that you do, especially like with the teasers or some of this work you've done with Bass Ham and so on. Like I get to see cool stuff. I'm like, I don't know how he does that. And it would be cool. I think one of these days we need to spend like 3 weeks in the same building, in the same desk.
Got all the Final Cut,
sitting right next to each
Film
other.
Studio downloads.
So as I edit it, I can ask you questions and you can ask me questions and we could just bounce. Because I learned where I truly, truly learned the most was when I worked in the Mountain Office building and Luke Duesenberry sat next to me.
Yeah.
And for 6 months, we were just every day. I'm like, Luke, how do you do this? 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 And I had already put a lot of groundwork in.
Yeah.
But he's like, you do this, Brian. You do this, Brian. And then I could start. That was so helpful. And then I showed him a bunch of stuff. He's like, what?
Yeah.
How? I didn't know you could do that. Oh, that's cool. And so we were able to really build each other up. So he got a lot out of that experience and I did too. And now we're both 10 times better than we were before that. I
think being open to that is important, like having that humility, which is tough. And it's a lesson a lot of people never learn. I remember in film school, you know, you pour your heart and soul into a project, right? And then I think the best thing about film school for me is I'm a very introverted person, but you put yourself into movies that you make, especially when you're writing a script. It's obviously about something that's going on with you. Yeah. And then you put it out there and you have to let your classmates watch it and critique it. And it's like what you're saying, you know, if you're not willing to accept that back and forth and learning from someone, you're never going to grow. Good artists copy, great artists steal. And if you're not willing to like take things from people, and I like, when we were going back and forth in the edit, you know, your first instinct is to be like, I don't want to do it that way. But when you take into consideration that you've been doing this and you're, you know, a hunter first, you know, you've got to consider things like feedback from lampers on certain things with the hunt and the stalk, and then certain things from you from a story perspective for a hunter. You know, that changed my perspective and like really helped my career. Some of that feedback that you gave me at first, I was like, that's the dumbest freaking thing. I don't want to do that. And then like, you know, I let it sit and I came back and I'm like, from a hunter's perspective, you do want to see certain things that you don't want to see as like, you know,
non-hunter.
Yeah, as a non-hunter.
That's why I think a lot of the hunting content doesn't connect with hunters, because someone newer like yourself that's super talented on the camera side and the edit side, they go through it and they do it. And the elements of what hunters want to see in a hunt, the stuff that we feel to our core, to our soul, the outside person doesn't. Yeah. It flies over their head. Right. They go, why would I? That was completely boring to me. That piece did not connect at all to me. I cut it out. Yeah. That whole 15-minute section, we got rid of that, because why would you put that in there? Mm-hmm. But for hunters, it's like, no, man, that's what I've been waiting for, and you just took it from me. Yeah. And it's simple, because often some of those sections, all we do is let the camera roll.
Yeah,
that's
genuine moments.
It's just genuine moment. There is no special edit. There is no fancy B-roll. There's just us standing there talking. And sometimes that's the best part of a film, is those 10 minutes of just us standing there talking about the animal. Yeah, and you just let it breathe. And from a filmmaker's perspective, you're like, I'm not doing anything fancy here. Yeah. There's no like.
It's about the people, though. Like any story is about the people, and that's, you know, you've got to understand your audience, and that's,
you nailed that with that film with Tana and Ryan and the llama, because especially episode 1, there's no action, dude. Yeah. There's none. It's just Tana and her dad, and it could come across. It could end up being quite a boring film. Yeah. And it's a challenge. That toward a film is a challenge to produce, and you nailed it, man. It's just fun to watch from beginning to end, partly because I'm invested, because I know Tana and I know Ryan.
Same here.
And I care about them as people. And so now I'm watching someone I care about. If a stranger came along and just watched it, they would get value out of it because they see a father-daughter doing something unique. But it's much more impactful when you have a relationship with the person in the show. And over the years, people they know me. They know Ryan. They're getting to know Brad, and that relationship builds community. Yeah. And then when they watch you do something, it means more to them than before. Like, I don't want to watch some stranger achieve some great thing the way that I want to watch someone I know achieve the great thing. Yeah. You know,
and that comes down to the storytelling, like you said. I mean, that whole getting to know people, you are characters in the film, and I think that's something that you got to keep in mind too. And something I really respect about what you do, that it's going to take me a long time if I ever get there, is being able to make yourself as a cameraman a character is infinitely harder than people can ever grasp, because you never think that way. It's hard to think that way from a cameraman's perspective. Like, you don't want to contribute because the story is there. And that's a really hard thing to weave yourself in a story as a character while filming. And that's something that's like one of those things that when we're locked in a room together, when you like make me teach you things and you teach me things, that's one thing that we're like, okay, how do you do it?
Brad can speak to that because
for sure.
I've been coaching Brad to tell that story as the cameraman, but also as someone on the hunt. And he's gotten good at it. A lot of people have commented in recent films, like with Livesey and stuff, to say Brad felt like a natural and he brought us along in that story. And as a hunter, like when Ryan's focused on the kill and you're the camera guy behind him, like on this where it's just the two of you there for days at a time, you want Ryan to do all the talking. I'd love to have Ryan do all the talking. The less I'm in a film, I like more. Yeah. The problem is you get home and you realize you're missing so much beautiful content because you weren't willing to get on the camera and tell the audience what was going on.
Well, and I think sometimes too, it's like, yes, you want Ryan to say it, but you're on a stalk and you get pinned down and you can't get it. And it's just, it doesn't feel as authentic when you do it later, you know, in the moment, you know?
No, like some people, like I'll walk with the camera. I heard the other day you hate it when I walk with the camera and talk at the same time. Bryce outed you. And I was like,
I know I told something from here to here. No.
But I was like, no. But I was saying, I try to stop actually so my audio doesn't compete with the sound. but I still get a lot of that. But what that is mostly is this is live action.
We're in the moment.
We're in the moment, and we are making the run on that stock. If I don't talk and give the audience updates on where we're at and how we're going and where we're at, blah, 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 when you get home and you go to edit it, it's 10 minutes of walking footage or climbing footage with
no explanation of point A to point B.
Point B. Yeah. You have no idea how far you've come or where. And so a lot of hunters just skip that.
Yeah.
So we spotted it. Throw up your gear.
You lay down ready to shoot.
And then they're getting ready to shoot, you know, and there's a lot of my edits are actually that piece in between because that's the action.
Yeah. That's crucial. The tie-ins are crucial, you know, and that's something that I'm trying to develop within like my storytelling techniques is how to do that without being able to turn the camera around. Because, you know, a lot of clients don't, you know, they don't want the
cameraman. No, that fourth wall has to be there.
Yeah. Like, sometimes there's a fourth wall, sometimes there isn't. And I like the, you know, like I said,
the fourth wall feels inauthentic to me because when I'm watching Meat Eater, and I love Meat Eater,
you know that there's a guy.
But when there's two dudes just getting hit by a storm and stuff, and everything's going nuts, and they barely get their shelter up, and I'm like, there's some dude
sitting there
filming there, and we're acting like there isn't some dude.
I agree.
It's weird to me.
Yeah. Oh, I get it, and that's
it reminds me of that whitetail film with the new one on like Amazon or whatever.
It's kind of a
spoofy one.
Yeah.
And he goes, get on the other side of the river. The talent, you know, the cameraman goes on the other side and he's like, okay, cool. And
nobody's crossed this log
before. But the cameraman's on the other side of the log.
He has crossed already.
Yeah.
That's one thing that
so dangerous. I'm taking a chance.
Yeah.
One thing that bugs me about watching some films, which I am so careful not to do, is like the old classic: set the tripod, walk back, and walk to the tripod, walk back to the tripod, get it, and put it back up. Yeah. That's a staple for so many like outdoor YouTube channels and like even like some bigger productions. I'm like, we know there's a guy. We see him moving, we see him hiking, and yet you're asking us to pretend someone didn't walk ahead and put
exactly
there.
But you know, like there are productions that just don't want that, or they don't want to share any glory with a cameraman.
Yeah,
and I'm always like, I want the cameraman, being a cameraman, I want them to get as much praise as possible. The problem is it prices us out of the cameraman within a short time. So what we need to figure out, Chiam, is how do we get Chiam Loyd to work exclusively for Gritty and Stealthy from now on? Like, what's that going to cost? Because there's a talent there.
Tell you what,
people are going to like
move to Preston, Idaho. You and I will split my lot. Like, we can just learn from each other. You don't have a girlfriend or nothing here, right?
No. See, Chiam's he's getting rooted in some land here shortly.
In Montana. So that's okay. I can deal with that. I can deal with that. But we just need to talk, you know, what's it going to take?
You know, Lamper's has got his freeze dryer running, and it's just going to depend on how much Taco Bell comes out of that thing.
Hey, I'm getting one, so I'll start cranking it out.
All right.
It's true, though. Lampers doesn't want that in his house.
This has happened. I've seen it where
$20 a Taco Bell will make a lot of Taco Bell. Freeze dried,
But I have worked with a lot of great dudes, talented dudes. Cameraman comes along, and before you know it, they're so talented, someone else comes along and hires them, and then they get hired to this, and they get hired to that, and they get hired to that, and then we got to find the next young Chiam Loyd and help work with them until they get snatched away again.
Or you teach a hunter to be a dumb cameraman like me.
Well, we need to do. We seriously need to talk though, because we really do need you on Gritty Stealthy projects mostly.
Yeah. Well, one thing I will say to that is, I think that there's a big part of me that's got this loyalty thing where this industry, whether we like it or not, like the hunt industry, the more I'm in it, the more I don't want to be.
It's very small, right? It's very small.
But you do want to be in our
space. Yeah. I mean, I'm not in with the whole high school girl clique thing. Which it happens. It happens in every industry. So I'm doing stuff in the waterfowl industry. I think it's worse.
I feel like we've kind of created an island, a little community that's between our crews and stuff. That's pretty.
Yeah,
we don't do that.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying is I think that the more you bounce around as a cameraman, the more you see the people that you want to work with, and you got to keep those guys close. And that's why I still hang around lampers.
That's why you're on this podcast making movies.
Before we kind of finish up, too, Chiam, I want to ask you, because being a camera guy, hunting, packing camera gear is not easy.
No.
Lampers has it easy.
Yeah.
So,
whatever.
Yes, that's why he's got so much room for extra food.
Extra food, coffee, lots of coffee, flaunts the food in front of you that you don't get to eat. I want to ask you, though, from that trip, because that was number one, like the first one you've done.
Baseline.
How has your backpack packing and your camera gear and stuff changed or evolved over time?
So my camera gear has pretty much stayed the same. Brian was making fun of me because you got a gimbal, you got a little GoPro.
That was aggressive. I still see what you pack, and I'm like, that's a lot of gear.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I just value the camera work that I'm doing, and most of the time I'm not carrying a gun.
I'm splitting the load now. I bring quite a bit, but it's shared with Brad.
Yeah. See, lampers won't do that.
I know.
It's because I packed the shelter, the stove, and the rifle.
That's not true. That's not true.
Oh, it is true, Brian. You got it.
Now he gets to pack a lightweight tricer tripod to use with his trekking pole.
I will do everything to shave those ounces.
We have shared weight. Ryan and I have shared weight on occasion, but there are times when the problem is I need the gear on
you need
my
the gear
person.
on your person. Exactly.
Yeah, because I can't be like, Ryan, wait, I'm going to grab this out of your bag now. That doesn't work.
Hand me the 200 to 600.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
No, it's changed. I think my actual hunting
Kit?
base camp gear has changed a lot. I was borrowing just a stupid Big Agnes tent, and running a stupid.
Hold on, you still packing your puffy boots? Your puffy pant boots?
No, I don't want
Smurf boots.
The Smurf boots? Not gonna lie, I was jealous. They
were pretty warm. I did ditch those. They're just way too big. They were North Carolina blue. Lampers likes to call them Smurf blue.
Smurf blue.
It was bad, but I am from Texas, and 40 degrees is very cold.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I think
It's changed a little bit.
Yeah. It's. I think my gear has changed. Like the actual hunting gear has changed a lot.
Now you
my
own some
gear.
of your own stuff. So
See, the thing about Chiam is like he loves the research part of his camera stuff. Yeah, but the hunting gear.
Yeah.
Like pretty much every piece of gear he nerds out on, and
he's pointed you to some new stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He purchases it, tests it, checks to see which one's the best, and he sends the rest back, and then I copy it. Yeah.
Well, I got the Rhino Tough. Solar panel that you had. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, that was a good find. I mean, we used to use the Anchor 3-panel, but it was, which is great.
And I tried to find a substitute,
but you can't buy it anymore.
Yeah.
So everybody that asked us, we were like, well, sorry, it's
let's
what
get
we're using.
One that everybody.
So Chiam found one that was comparable, and they're pretty similar, and that's that Rhino Tough.
Well, we got to wrap up because we got other things to do. But for folks that are listening and they want to check out more of your work, where can they find you, Chiam?
Mainly on Instagram at Chiam_films. Catch me there. That's pretty much it.
Or at Taco Bell after midnight.
Or the Bozeman Taco Bell.
Folks, leave a comment in the comment section of the podcast if you want to see Chiam come work exclusively at Gritty and Stealthy. We need a pressure campaign. DM him. Come after him hard.
Well, I'm lucky. I get Chiam for a few trips this year again. So we got another trip with my girls, Tana and Paley.
Yep.
He did spend like we talked about that trip with Paley. He got his first buck. Paley got her third buck, and that's a film that'll be coming out too. It was really cool.
Very cool. I'm excited for it all. Yeah, Lampers is going to have a Stealthy Hunter YouTube channel at some point where actual content gets put. So that'll, folks, you need to go follow Stealthy on his YouTube channel.
There's nothing there right now.
Subscribe, hit that notification bell, and then we're going to work on Rumble. We're in the middle of putting.
It's transferring right now.
How many are?
There's quite a few. All of 2020, I believe, all of 2022
is up there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting there. We're going to have a Rumble channel like.
Again, you may not be able to see it yet, but we're in the process of uploading it all, transferring it. So
got that, and then if you want to see 2 films that Chiam has produced that are exclusive to the Gritty Stealthy community. Yep. Just join us over there. Go to gritty.locals.com. Sign up. It's $7 and you can check it out. And if you want to stay, it's $7 a month. And we've got more exclusive films. We got at least 5 more going there this year, plus some bonus content for, from the coups, behind the scenes stuff, and then live streams.
Yep.
And there's a calendar of what you can expect, the dates we do streams, the dates we do film drops.
And
Chiam produced that llama film with you and Tana, 2 parts, plus this film that just dropped on Sunday that I wasn't on, that you, Brad, and
because you're coming with us at least for the first part of the trip this year, right?
Yep.
How many days we got you for? It was just like 2 or 3.
Oh, it's going to be more than that. So
we're going too.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Sweet.
Yep.
They decided that they wanted to come chase the llamas.
That wasn't it at all. But no,
well,
we
had too much fun without them. They wanted to crack it.
Exactly.
No fun.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's really it.
Mark was Lampers was worried about Mark knocking off some bears off his list.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mark started talking too much about those no-zone bears.
I just keep thinking about that big chocolate that we left up there.
If there's a list, that's the one bear that I'm sorry nobody can touch.
If I see a bear, I'm shooting.
There was 4 big chocolates
that's
we left
true.
Up there. So.
That's true.
Yeah.
Any of those 4.
Anyway, folks, go follow Chiam. Instagram again.
At Chiam_films. I'm sure you'll work your editing.
We'll put
that in there.
We'll put a little link in the description
Chiam
field.
Loyd with 1 L.
1 L. That's right.
Yep. Folks, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you following the show. Leave us a comment. Do that pressure campaign on Chiam if you got some time. Thank you.
I would love to work next to Chiam.
Thank you. And stay gritty.